Hi everybody, it's Colin here from Woodthorp International. Well, a bit of a, not a problem, but a potential problem was going to arise on my layout after doing that rewire last week on Japan with the shielded wire. And the problem was I found out that it needed grounding. Well, that just went over my head. I know what grounding is in a house because it's earthing. And it's the same sort of thing. And I had put plastic ends on the end of the wires, what I'd done last week. And all that would do was make it an aerial and cause other issues and pick up and transmit and stuff like that. So I had to look into how to do shielded ends, and I thought I'd show you because there's not many videos I could find in this country. There's a lot in America with their way of doing it, but I just thought I'd just run through it because it looks like it's caused, there's been a bit of interest in my last week's video. And it's a lovely hot day today, the sun's out, and I thought I'd sit in the doorway. The double doors are open, half of the windows open, just to get some air into the layout room. So I thought I'd do it in front of my bridge, basically. So I'll set the camera up and then go through it. So basically what I'd put on was this plastic end. It's what they call a through wire one. And yes, it stopped the flashing of the original problem. It's like an illness. Sometimes you get medicine what sorts one problem out, which was the shielded wire, but it gives you other problems, does just having that wire or a medicine. So you've got to take another tablet, and what you have to put on are those, and it's got metal on, which when connected into the units are got grounding on because they're connected to the main power feed. So I just need to do that to cover myself. I don't know if it ever would be a problem. Everybody, I've spoken to the main man at Lodi, and I've spoken to a very good friend, Ian from Ian's Engage, and we were, it was actually Ian who brought it up. Who says, do you have to ground it? I said, I don't know. So I looked into it, and this is what I've decided I'm going to have to do. So it was a bit complicated because when I watched some American ones, the way they put it over, they said you only want to have grounding at one end, and they were showing it being put on, so I assume of a length of wire. And what they actually was meaning was, no matter what the run is, you only ground one end of it. So you have to put those on both ends, these shielded ends. So what you have to do, you've got your piece of wire. One thing I've noticed, they say 1.5 to 2 inch cut the outer plastic off. Just give it a little turn once round. If it doesn't come apart, you'll see that it's nearly through, and if you just fold it off, it just breaks any last. Because what you don't want to do is take too much off, because you can, if you press too hard, you can cut through and damage the wire. that bit of cord you can just cut off. So just cut it off right down near the bottom. It would do if you do it right, like that. Now this is the shielding, like I showed you last week. Now what some people do is they fold this back. They just tear it a little bit and fold it back on itself and wrap it round the wire so much. So it's like that. But I have watched a few videos and I've decided not to do it this way. This could easily just tear off at some point. It's quite easy to give way, because what you have to do is thread it into this end plug, and this bit goes round here, which had the foil, folded back the foil, but there's a wire in here, a brass wire there. And what I'm going to do, some people just rest it on there, some people wrap it round, and some people put copper tape on, and over there is some copper tape, and I'm going to put that on. But you must get conductive adhesive, so just in case the wire goes under and it's stuck on to the underneath side, it'll still work. Now what they do say with these is just fold it back just beyond 90 degrees, so it's just out of the way when you load your wire in. And if you notice on here, this brass sticks up, and when you crimp it, it cuts into the wires. So I'm just going to lay that out of the way for now. This is how I've decided it's best for me to do it. Now this bit of plastic just comes off, and then you've got your 4 pairs of wire, a colour and the same colour with white. But you've got to get rid of this bit of plastic here. Now again, some people just say, if you look at the end, there's like a little cross, and cut to the centre on each piece. If you can see, and then just twist it and it just breaks away. It does, honest. Some people just cut it straight off. Anyway, I've shown you both ways. And then you've got to uncoil these wires. Now in Cat 6, they're not as thick as Cat 7 and so on. Now on that bit of plastic, just going back to that bit of plastic, that is straight and it goes all the way through the wire. If you go on to Cat 7, I understand that this is twisted, and it then generates more frequency power to go through, and this is how they get more. Cat 7 is better than Cat 6 and so on. There's quite a lot of cats. I think it starts off at Cat 3 and goes to Cat 8. But you have to undo these wires, and then you just need to straighten them out as much as possible. And the best way of doing that is to get a screwdriver underneath the wire, finger on top, and just pull it a few times and it straightens them out. And then do them all, which I'll just do. So they're all roughly straight. Now I'm wiring this the B way. In the olden days they used to do it the A way, and then slowly the B way came in, and there's more B now than anything. So I understand. So you've got to put brown and white, and then a solid green next to the brown and white. Then the two blues, so it's blue and white first and then solid blue. Then the green and white next to the blue. And the last two colours, and you just got to get them as close as you can because you've got to feed them into something. Now there's one wrong there, and that's that green. It's got next to the wrong colour when I was just straightening them out. Then what they say do is cut a nice square end on, basically. I'm just going to look at it a bit closer. So that's them all in the right place. Then you have to put on this piece of plastic, and it separates them all, and it puts 4 solid colours on the top and the colour and white on the bottom. But first, cut a square end on like that. It doesn't matter which way round you put this on, because when you look at the end, the top row is closer to the right than it is to the left. So if you turn it over, it's the same. And if you notice, it's put the solid colours all on the top and the white and colour on the bottom row. You just have to then cut that a bit closer to go into the plug. If it's a through one, then you can cut it after it's threaded through, but it seems like they want to do it with this. And then the other thing I have to do before I go any further is put the copper tape on there. So just get a bit, it doesn't matter if it goes round more than once, cut it off. It's quite thin, so be gentle with it because it'll easily tear. And just put it around the top. And then that's there on that. Now, you always load the wires so the brown is at the top if you're holding it like that to see, or down. So you have to cut most of this off now to about that distance away from the plastic. And then you just push it in. Now these don't go all the way through. and you just have to squeeze so that wire and the copper tape goes into the unit. You can just pull that round if you want so it's out of the way. Then you load this in at the top. Now remember that they're stuck up, those brass bits, and when you clamp it, you just push that into there. I push the wire as well, clamp, pull out, and if you look now, those have disappeared into there to form the straight line on the end, but they're all cut into the wire lower down, where the other, you rely on the plastic ones that it's the end of the wire what touches the connection, where that is a more positive way of connecting. So if you want, wrap this wire around a little bit to get rid of the excess. And push it on so the wire's within that bit now. And then if you just want to temporarily get them on so they're stuck down a little bit. And then what I use is another crimping machine or hand tool. Now in all fairness, this machine isn't for doing this, but if you're gentle with it and just squeeze it a little bit, and I can just undo it with that lever, and then you can see it's crimped on the end. Now what you must remember to do if you're using these covers, you must load it on first. Now I'm not, because I've got an open end, so I'll thread it on, and there it is on the end, and it just covers everything up, and then when you press that, it presses the actual plastic down what's on the end, and it would disconnect. So I'll show you it tested. And the other thing I've noticed with the tester, it does the grounding as well, because I wondered how how I would know that I've done both ends correctly. So that's how I've decided to actually do a shielded end. It works for me. I can physically see that copper wire is touching the copper tape and it's crimped on. So I'll show you the testing. One other thing I've done is ballast this area and up to where the tunnel mouth, which is laid down, and so I can finish this area, build it all up, and then start putting grass down and stuff. So that's another job I've done. So I'll show you this wire tested. Right, that's the first one done with the grounding and shielded ends, because as you see the G lights up, which means it's correctly transmitting the grounding from one to the other. So I'm very pleased with that. So as you can see, this one doesn't show grounding because that is a shielded wire, which I did last week, but it hasn't got shielded ends on. So it shows that it's not grounded. And I wondered what that G was for. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? G, ground, but I didn't know what it stood for. And now I know. So even though it's wired up correct, It's that G what's not there to transmit the interference down to ground. And I've got this new loco. It's second hand. I bought it off a good friend, Mark Island, as a lot of people know. And he hates 66s. He absolutely hates them. He bought this, can't live with it at all. He said it's a poor puller. I don't think it is. It won't pull a huge rake, but I mean, that's not a bad size rake. And I think it could pull a little bit more. But he doesn't like them, and it's dapple. And unfortunately, he don't like dapple at all. It's fallen out with them, big style. But it's just nice to sit here watching the trains go past, especially on a nice warm day. Sat in the fresh air, door open, and looking at this. And I've still got the class 40 running round as well. And again, it's just nice to see this running back past over the bridge. Cup of tea, sat here. It's ace. There's one shot I do love, which when the class 66 comes round, I'll show you. So if I'm looking up from the bottom of the valley and seeing the train go round and the wagons, I just think that's a lovely shot. And pan back so you get more bridging. You get the feeling I like this bridge. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Sorry it's been a bit of a longer one, but I just thought it was important to explain what I've done and why and reasons for it. So hit the like, leave a comment and subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now. Bye.